Once you find yourself in conflict with a narcissist, it's a virtual guarantee they're going to start playing head games with you. That's why I put together a new course. It's very extensive called Anger Games. I'm going to teach you how to manage anger and conflict with a narcissist. There's a link below that's going to show you how to register, and I hope that you find it to be very insightful. One of the more positive parts of my practice of therapy would be when I would work with someone who just would be tormented over and over by a really negative and difficult individual, only for them to finally realize, I'm dealing with someone who's not that bright. You see, narcissists have a way of trying to remind you that they're the gold standard. They're the ones who should set the pace inside a relationship. And they're counting on you to be gullible enough to go along with the lunacy of whatever they're bringing to the equation. But over time, I know you already have these notions that says this person's nuts. And I'm just going to take it a little bit further and say, over time, you're going to realize this person, at least on the relationship level, is not that bright. Narcissists operate with such illogic and so many erroneous assumptions that regardless of how much intelligence they may have in other kind of areas, they may be an astrophysicist for all I know, but on the personal level, they can have very low emotional intelligence. They have a very low regard for mutuality. They don't understand the human dimension well at all. They're counting on you to just buy into their program in a blind, loyal kind of way. And it's going to be necessary for you to remind yourself, I'm dealing with someone who's operating on a very low level of awareness. They're not that bright. Now, to give you an idea of how this can play out, I'm going to give you 10 indicators of how narcissists illustrate over and over that they're not all that bright. Let me see if I can go through these, and I want you to think, how many of these possible scenarios have you encountered? Now, the first thing that I'll mention is narcissists will give you lots, and when I say lots, plenty of criticism, and then they expect you to be motivated to change. Now, short term, maybe you will change it to get them off your back, but let's think about that. Criticism, finding fault, being negative. Is that a very bright way to manage relationships? The narcissist thinks, works for me. Short term, they may be able to intimidate. Long term, it just leads to relationship disaster, and yet they keep doing it. They're not that bright. Or another one right on top of this one is narcissists will exude a haughty, insufferable superiority, and then they assume that it's responsible for you, or it's reasonable, for you to play the role of the underling. So here that's not that bright. So here they come along and they think, I want to make this relationship work. And the way it works is I'm the one that calls all the shots and you're the one that listens to everything I says. That's not a very smart way to do things. Their strategy is doomed to fail, and yet they keep doing it over and over. A third indicator that they're not that bright, and this is an awful one, but they will offer unruly anger, and then they will have no appreciation for the destructive nature of it all, and then they expect you to just go along with their program, and if you complain about their anger, it's your fault. And so again, I would talk with individuals constantly about how, in my office, about how they could manage anger, but in a clean kind of way. And there's assertive, there's respectful anger. Narcissists is like, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pummel people. I'm going to make them squirm. That's not that bright. They may think that they're winning, but in the long run, if they look back upon the patterns in their life, they see they've had a whole lot of losing relationships because they can't contain the anger and the contempt and the harshness that goes along with it. They don't learn. A fourth indicator that they're not all that bright is many of them just simply won't give any kind of attention to you or anyone else for that matter on special days. Whether it's a holiday or a birthday or an anniversary, something like that, or maybe there's an award that you got at work, It's like, I'm not going to pay any attention to you. Why would I want to give you positive regard? And it's like, well, it's kind of nice to regale someone and to let them know that you're proud of them. The narcissist is like, I don't do that. And in doing so, it's like, yeah, you don't get relationships, do you? Affirmation is a part of it. You're not that bright, though. You don't even see the value of that beyond you being affirmed, of course. Now, a fifth indicator that they're not all that bright. And that is, this is one that just makes you pull your hair out. Let's suppose that you tell them during a bad discussion that you'd like for them to stop yelling. And so what they do is they'll yell at you and tell you they're not yelling. In other words, they don't see the fullness of their inappropriateness. I'm asking you not to yell, and you yell that you're not yelling. Let's think that one through. How many of you, raise your hand if you've ever been through something like that? And when you look at it, of course, you can get so caught up in the mood of the moment, you forget this person's not operating with a full deck of cards. That's not very bright. A sixth indicator is somehow narcissists have assumed that it's reasonable to blame you for their erroneous or their egregious behaviors. For example, if it's an affair, or if they had an abusive episode with you, or they unwisely lost a lot of money, or you caught them red-handed doing some things that they weren't supposed to do. Well, what they'll do is they'll say, yeah, and you're the fault. And as opposed to saying, you know what, I have some issues that I need to take care of. There's a lot going on inside of me, and the last thing I need to do is drag you down with me. They're not bright enough and insightful enough to say that. They think, well, if I can just find a scapegoat, oh, there you are, then that makes my problems go away. That's nuts. A seventh indicator is that they may engage in inappropriate fawning or grooming towards other individuals, and then they fault you if you draw attention to that. For example, I remember one woman saying, "Yeah, my mother was really, really friendly until she came home." In other words, you can just try to impress everybody and give them the impression that she's okay, or you can have that person that's the ultimate salesperson or persuader, and then when they get home, they're grumpy and gripey and all. And you can see it's like, well, okay, I'm going to just groom people, and then once I get them in my circle, I'm not going to do anything with it. But I like the hunt anyway. That's not a good way to treat relationships. You're not going to set yourself up for anything beyond short-term gratification, and it's not that bright. Now, another, and this is a big one, the way that they illustrate they're not that bright. Number 8 is they can go into a pattern of lying, and frankly to the point where it's first nature. And then they'll explain to you when you call them out on that their dishonesty is necessary. For example, they may lie about their past. They may lie about what they've done during the day, trying to make a good impression. And then if you say something, it's like, well, the other people don't need to know. And besides, I'm a lot better than they think I am. And so they can rationalize. And it's like, yeah, so what that means you're doing is you're building relationships on all sorts of false pretenses. Not very bright. A ninth way that they can illustrate this, and that is they can be absurdly defensive in receiving input. And you know what they'll do? They'll accuse you of being closed-minded. So you say, hey, we need to talk. And they say, no, I don't need anything from you. Besides, you're so closed-minded. Why would I talk to you? And it's like, do you realize that you're actually illustrating the very thing that you complain about? It's like, no, I don't see that. It's like, right, because you're not that bright. Or a 10th way that they illustrate this, and that is they may offer lame excuses. They may offer a very weak confession or ask for forgiveness, and they or make an apology, and then they expect everything to be done. I mean, somebody does something that's really ugly and awful, and they'll say, okay, I shouldn't have done it. And then later on, when you bring something up relative to that, it's like, well, I've already told you that I did something wrong. What do you expect? And then they yell at you for not accepting their lame apology. That's not that bright. You see, along with the pattern of narcissism comes ingredients like stubbornness, and I mentioned closed-mindedness, very low reasoning capacity when it comes to the personal things. They're naive with respect to how they think things are supposed to play out. They're poorly informed regarding relationship matters. They're self-impressed in a hubris kind of way. It's like, yeah, I'm really impressed with me, when in fact, well, you have no evidence to be that way. They have psychological immaturity, and they have zero empathy. All of that goes into them being not that bright. So it's going to be essential for you to see this pattern. And even though they can come across as strong and intelligent and informed and, the ultimate go-to person, remind yourself, these are individuals who are operating with very, very low psychological maturity. They're stuck in pre-adolescent. They're like a kid on the playground in grade school, pre-adolescent thinking. So keep in mind, there's no way that you need to be taking your cues from someone who's this poorly informed with respect to a healthy life. Evidence shows repeatedly that this person is subversive. They have no intention of tuning into your sense of well-being. Your insights, your confrontations typically are going to be lost on that person because they're not going to hear you. And there's no reason for you to then be joined with someone who brings you down in a very willing kind of way. If you have to maintain contact with that person, you're going to want to do so on a superficial level, and then remind yourself this is not going to be anyone who's going to be on the inside of my inner circle. So drop your efforts to reform that person. Choose to follow your well-conceived initiative. Remove yourself from that individual and remind yourself, I'm dealing with someone whose elevator doesn't go to the top floor. Now, I hope that this can give you some awareness of what you're dealing with. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We'll keep more videos coming your way. When you go onto my channel, you'll notice that there's a tab that says videos. You can go back and look at all sorts of past videos. That's what they're there for. We keep them archived for you. In addition, I know that sometimes when you're dealing with something like this, it's like, I need somebody to help me sift this out. I need to make sure that my head is straight. And that's why I'm so pleased that I've been sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com for years now. It's an online therapy resource, and there's a whole team of licensed professional therapists there that would be available for you. It can be so helpful for you to say, talk with someone that says, well, let's see if we can figure this out. Let's see if we can determine what's fact and what's fiction, and go from there. Having that objective mind with you can be so necessary. So get the help that you need. Go through the link. In addition, I put together courses in my retirement, and these are online video courses. Each course has at least 25 teaching videos with documents that go along with each one, with guided questions. They take you in a certain direction. We have the anger games, which is about staying out of the anger traps that narcissists want to pull you into, and it's become very popular. We also have This Is Me, about boundaries, Free to Be, finding yourself, Ready, Set, Connect, about making healthy connections. Also, on our website, we have access to them below the video here too. We have my webinars that are 90-minute presentations. We have articles, access to the podcast, my books, so plenty of resources. Make yourself available to all of that. Okay, we're not being mean when we say they're just not that bright, but in truth is truth. You're dealing with somebody who hasn't thought through the healthy way of life at all. So I'm hoping you can decide, well, I'm going to be someone who's an ongoing, lifelong learner, and I'm going to bring a certain amount of emotional intelligence to the equation. And when they bring all of this vitriol, I'm going to remind myself I'm dealing with an adult who's being driven by pre-adolescent thinking, and I'm not going to go into that space. Stay steady with who you are. Trust your gut and hold firmly to what you know is wisest and best, because that's the best way for you to position yourself to be a person of peace.